Bill Gates said, "I will always choose a lazy person to do a difficult job because a lazy person will find an easy way to do it." What's a real-life example of this? I was working as a stock boy in a supermarket, and when we had to fill the milk cooler, people would bust open a 12-pack of milk cartons and put them in one by one. On my first day, I just placed the 12-pack in the cooler and cut the plastic off on one side with my box cutter and yanked it from under it, and the look of the store manager and the other employee who was training me was pure bewilderment. From that day, everyone did it my way. Start of lockdown. My 9-year-old son was having worksheets emailed to complete at home. One day, left him at the laptop doing his maths while I made some dinner with my 3-year-old daughter. Walked into the living room with his dinner to find him asking the Alexa all of his maths questions. I had a math teacher that actively encouraged his students to be as lazy as possible, defining lazy as actively searching for ways to do as minimal work as possible. His logic was that, the way math is now, it could always be simplified and still work the same. Someone just needs to be lazy enough to find that. The clerk was asked to bring 145 white papers into the office. He doesn't want to count the papers manually, so he printed 145 blank sheets and took them in. It took me like 3 months, but I automated a data pipeline to extract data, clean it up, and spit it out in an Excel or PDF format to one of our clients. I walked over to shoot the shit with the lady who handles my client and gives me tasks, and she told me we make $40K off them every month for that automated job. Fuck, I need to go start my own business. If I need directions, I'm not asking a man with one tooth, I'm asking a man with one leg. Cause he definitely knows the easiest way to get there. Yup, if there's a shortcut, that one-legged fucker knows where it is. You won't be hopping fences neither. I worked goods in for an aircraft manufacturer as a summer job at university. Parts would arrive, we'd open them and key in all the details into a terminal. That bit was long-winded. I discovered the terminal keyboard has assignable shortcuts, and set up a bunch of them for all the boilerplate such that keying in an item was about 6 keystrokes. Saved myself and my workmate hours every day, which we would spend pranking each other, other warehouse staff and staff at other sites. I was invited to my friend's yearly apple picking. It was a full day of apples and kids and filling a truck for cider. I'm lazy and suggested we make the process more efficient with tarps on the ground. We managed in 2 hours what historically took all day. We didn't even get to the picnic lunch. Essentially, I ruined apple picking. Hopefully this hasn't been posted yet. Basically, in order to restart a server, they made a robot that would eject its CD tray every time it couldn't ping it. In Australia, explorers discovered a mountain that was taller than Mount Kosciuszko, which was thought to be the tallest mountain in Australia. Rather than cause confusion by telling everyone a new tallest mountain had been found, they simply named the new mountain Mount Kosciuszko and renamed the original to something else. Me. I automate shit all the time at work to make daily routine jobs more easy. I write manuals with screenshots with arrows indicating where to click or where to fill in what. Whenever I write a manual, I assume that whoever reads it is a complete idiot, so that whenever customers call for the same questions again, I just send them to the online manual I created. No need to type it out again by email or explain it again by phone. Does Alexander and the Gordian knot count? A complex knot that, according to prophecy, was to be undone only by the person who was to rule Asia, and that was cut, rather than untied, by Alexander the Great. The entire miscellaneous kitchen tools section at bed, bath, and beyond. I don't need an avocado slicer or a lemon squeezer or an automatic chopper dicer, but lazy old me definitely puts them to good use. My brother gave my oldest nephew $10 a week if he did all his chores without needing to be told or complaining. One day he gets home early from work and sees the neighbor kid tossing a bag in the trash. He asks him what he is doing, and the kid says he gets $5 a week to take care of a few chores. My nephew outsourced his chores. I had to carry groceries into the house when I was a kid. I didn't want to make multiple trips, so I tied several bags to the belt loops on my pants to do it in one trip. An engineer spent hours developing a program so they could start the coffee pot from their desk and not have to wait for coffee when arriving in the break room. My greenhouse's watering system. I would spend an hour per day watering the garden. 30 hours per month. So for $50, I set up a PVC watering system in a few hours. Now I just turn on the spigot and watch while I smoke a joint. The guy that fixed the track link problem on Russian T-34 tanks. Instead of redesigning the tracks or track links, he slapped some metal at the side of the tank for the links to get pushed back into place. My wife and I have a chore list. I now am tasked with vacuuming, which she gloated about not having to do because it is so time-consuming. I bought a Roomba and now the house is cleaner than ever, and all I have to do is press a button on my phone. Polymerase chain reaction. PCR changed bio and medical sciences more than any other breakthrough in modern times, and it came about because a scientist wanted to surf more, so he figured out how to do a full-time lab job in just a few hours a week. Love him. I remember reading about a Texas airport that had a high rate of complaints from people who had to wait a long time for their luggage at baggage claim. The solution: assign a further away baggage claim for the same flights. People walked longer, but complaints went way down since they didn't have to wait as long. I asked my husband to take out roughly a dumpster's worth of trash. He spent about an hour building a sled out of the trash, and took it out in one go. Laziest man I've ever met. I created mainframe automation so that if there was a problem, I would get paged in my boss's office where I played Doom for hours on end. Oh, and browsed news groups. Yes, I'm old. I worked in a library scanning incoming books into the system. This required a lot of transferring of piles of books from one station to another. My workmate constantly called me lazy because I would not get out of my chair while doing this job. I don't know how many times I had to explain her that's what wheelie chairs are for, and I was at least 3 times as fast as her at the same job, and this was in part because of the efficiency of not getting up out of my chair every 2 minutes. I am presently printing and wiring a safety switch that will disable my lathe when the chuck key is removed. It is a rule that the chuck key will never be in the chuck whilst any other activity is occurring other than tightening the chuck. Whilst I have never yet forgotten to remove the key, I decided that to ensure it is never left in the chuck, the machine will never start with the key removed from the switch. Me. I am a real-life example of this. Wow, you do amazing work. You must work so hard. Fuck no. Step 1 of any new job task is workflow efficiency. But I let them continue to think I'm busting my ass while I surf Reddit. My friend applied for a job at a company that works on autonomously driving systems for cars. During the interview he was asked whether he likes cars. His answer was that he absolutely hates to drive. He got the job. Me. One time I asked my boss seriously, "Why do you always toss me the difficult tasks?" And he replied, "Because I know you'll get it done quick so you can get your ass back on Reddit." When Peter the Great was building St. Petersburg, there was a huge boulder needed removing as it was in the way of a road. Lots of contractors tendered for the job. They would use explosives to start, smash it into smaller pieces using sledgehammers and then cart them away. A local peasant also put in an offer for half the price. They gave him the job. He and a few friends dug a large hole next to it, took away the excess earth, tipped the boulder in and covered it up with the remaining earth. I used to animate graphics for those LED signs at certain popular fast food chains. There would sometimes be a library of 8126 seconds videos that need resized or scaled down. I figured out how to make a system macro that memorized some of my mouse clicks and keyboard strokes, and it automated a previously 4-hour task into something I could hit one button and start sketching out ideas for other projects. At my last job, a truck suspension shop, we did inventory every December, and it was someone's job to count all the washers and screws of every size. It was my first inventory, and I casually mentioned that they should just weigh 10 screws or washers, then weigh them all and divide the weight to get the count. Everyone looked at me like I had given them the key to the universe. Counting washers and screws went from a day or two, to just an hour. Basically every invention in the last 100 years is an example of how to accomplish a task with much less effort. The automobile being the first one that comes to mind. I personally use the talk-to-text feature on my phone to get it to write essays for me. I just talk about what I want it to write and then tweak the grammar errors later. Work smarter, not harder, smiley face. I used to work at car dealership parts department, and most repetitively strokes for the same product like oil changes and such. Made a keystroke shortcut. Now as a forklift driver at a Costco, I try to make sure there is something always on my forks going in or out of aisle. Unlike other drivers, they don't. That common sense though. When I was about 7-10 years old, my dad used to pay me to self-sit. Basically, instead of having to get a babysitter on short notice and then pay them like $100, he told me that I would get $30 if I stayed in my room and didn't speak to my older sister for 3 hours. He then told my sister that she was the babysitter and she would get $30 if nothing bad happened. I work at a company which, despite having 100 employees, doesn't seem to have one that knows more than basics when it comes to computers. Due to the pandemic, we've all taken up some chores to clock some hours. They've got me retyping PDF read-only files to a new Word file. Thus far they haven't figured out you can just export a PDF file to Doc and Acrobat. But my schedule is now 1-3 cleared to do typing work.